Hello, everybody. Very nice to be joined on a Tuesday evening on our YouTube. I'm Becky. I'm the director of Northampton Film Festival. And this week, we're talking to two of the feature film directors for some of the films that have been nominated for Best Film, which is very exciting. So, if you don't know Northampton Film Festival, we are 5 years old this year, which is very exciting. We're kind of trying to make sure that every event is a party. Check out the website, northamptonfilmfestival.co.uk. But also, if you want to then look at the schedule for the festival, click the festival link and you'll see all the films we're showing. We've got a load of like world premieres, some UK premieres, some Midlands premieres, because it's important to represent the Midlands as well. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in today's guest, which is Jazz Bhalla from the feature film Never Had a Chance. How are you doing, Jazz?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I feel like, we're a week before the film festival.
Oh my God, already?
Yeah, no. But a week before we start. And so my brain is all over the place, but it's exciting. So I'm not, not complaining.
Well, thank you for selecting us and choosing the film to be screened at your festival. Looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's been great. I think yes, you're on Thursday, the 5th of March. So kind of towards the end of the festival. So by the time we get there, we'll have watched billions of films and it'll be easy.
We'll be the big finish.
Absolutely. And I should have said actually, sorry, if anyone. Yeah, well, exactly. And for anyone watching live, I should have said, if you want to put any questions for Jazz in the comments, I'll do my best to try and field them and ask them to him. But yeah, first of all, do you just want for someone who doesn't know anything about Never Had a Chance, can you just tell us a little bit about what it's about?
Well, it's a British Asian drama set in West London. We could say crime drama. Just I wanted to make something realistic, sort of show my background, where I come from, and the world that we sort of grew up in. Because I sort of met a few people, like friends, and then when they meet me, oh wow, Jazz! Never realised there was Asian people like you around. Oh my God, And then I found that a bit strange, and I've had that from a few people, and I got a lot of all my friends, and we're all like that. So it's just like I wanted to do something a bit more honest about where we came from, rather than the old sort of twisty light bulbs and super bright colours all the time, and dancing in weddings and things like that. So I wanted to do something away from all that. So that's kind of where the idea came from.
Yeah, we're always really keen to show films that maybe have like different perspectives to communities that from what people are seeing. Like, do you feel like there wasn't stuff that was out there that you go, yeah, this is what my life is like?
Exactly. I sort of, we definitely are a misrepresented community. Obviously there's a film, there's an industry, there's lots of films, and we've got our own sort of, Gurinder Chadha and Meera Syal and the Bend It Like Beckhams, the East is East, great, amazing films which are part of our history. But I do feel like we need to move on a little bit from that now, because not all of our lives are just like twisty light bulbs and oh haha, look how funny we all are. So I'm just trying to show something like a bit more realistic. So it's a made up story, but it could be true, was the idea. So it's about a guy who's sort of down on his luck. He's a bit of an underdog, and all he's simple. He comes from a harsh background, and all he wants to do is better himself and have a better life. And then he's got a friend who comes from a slightly better background, has got parents and things like that. Don't want to give too much away, but he's the one that's the sort of the more messed up one. And I wanted to show that the people who come from the harsher backgrounds, that a lot of the time have actually more focus on the people that are kind of given everything to them. So I wanted to show a bit of that as well. So kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you work with coming up with the ideas and then working with a screenwriter to turn it into that kind of hour and a half? Because I'm sure there's more stories that you could tell than an hour and a half. So how did you go about kind of framing this into a feature?
Well, sort of, not without trying to be too cliche, I've always sort of had stories in my head that I wanted to say and express. I know, without being a bit cliche again, is express myself. So I sort of messed around, brainstormed over the years. And then I had a lovely idea that I really liked, which I wrote, and I was close to sort of completing with somebody just before COVID. And then obviously COVID happened and it fell apart. And then me writing a script, I write short films, and I've written scripts and stuff, but I get a bit too precious about it. And I knew I needed someone to help me out. And then I'll speak to a friend of mine, Bruce Webb. I don't know if you know Bruce. Bruce Webb's a good lad. I was just speaking to him once, and then he told me, I said, do you know any writers, preferably British Asian? He said, oh, you should speak to my mate Darren. Darren Rapier. He's a really good lad. You should speak to him. So fine, he sort of put me in touch, and I just got on with him straight away. Well, I think we got. I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
Yeah, I'll find out in screening.
Yeah. I think we got on well. We must be doing all right because we're trying to write other films as well now. But anyways, we got on. We wrote a script, the one that I had in my head at the time. We worked on it for about a year, and probably about a year later of sort of working on it, structuring it, and going through the treatments and stuff. We decided it wasn't working, so we discussed what wasn't working, took that out of it, and then simplified it. And then we worked on that treatment for a little while, probably 6 months at least. Once we had the whole structure sorted, we were happy with it. I remember driving down the street and I was sort of going through it in my head, boom, 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 boom. I was like, yep, right, I think we got it. Rang him up, I think we got it. He agreed, and then in fact, once we'd done that and we got to that stage, the script was a lot easier to write because we'd already put that work in before, and that was Darren sort of coaching me on how to do it. He's great at sort of doing all. He's a full-time writer, and he doesn't get precious about things. So, when I write, I feel like I've worked so hard on it. If something's not working, it breaks my heart to pull it out. Even in the edit, when we had to do that, it really sort of killed me to do that. I couldn't do it. And then when I sit down with Darren, he's like, "Oh, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that." Just rip it out, throw it away, and then I needed someone like that. And before we knew it, we had a good. I felt we had a good, strong script between us, and then the dialogue I had to rewrite the dialogue a bit myself because it was set in Hounslow and I wanted him to speak in a specific way. So Darren did attempt it, bless him, and then a lot of the humor came from him. And I didn't want to do like just something, I wanted to do something a bit more serious, but I didn't want to do it. Life isn't just all doom and gloom, I don't want everyone to sort of see where we come from. It's all crap and shit and blah, blah, blah. It's actually, we do have fun. It is a bit of a laugh. So I did try and put that into it as well, which I do think came across. I've been told it's got some funny parts to it. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, you say it's your debut feature, and it is hard going through, like, I've done it myself. Like, it's really hard to go through, and make those cuts in the script, but also sometimes in the edit. But those people that can give you those notes and go, do you know what, you don't need it. The story still works without it. They are like invaluable.
Oh, yeah. I had a couple of them. I did have like a pretty depressing Christmas 2024 because we sort of were messing around with it for a year. And then we had a few bits in there, like, between me, the editor, Cam Palmer, one of the producer, Rajinder Kochhar, we were just sort of sitting there going through it. And then, they kind of, had to, what they say, when you have to kill the baby, I had to kill the baby. And then I had a cut that I was happy with. And they were like, you have to take these two, three bits out or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't want to take them out. I like them too much. I know they're right, but I don't want to take them out. And then I sort of moped around Christmas and New Year 2024. And I was like, no, I got to make a decision. This film's never going to get finished. And I knew they were right. And we sort of compromised on their bits and my bits and then went through with it. So I got to thank the editor and Rajinder for that. Definitely, they helped me get there. Yeah, I think it's a nice tight film, And then, I got another respect for it now. If you put something in an edit and it makes the audience go, huh? Or what's that about? Or they're thinking about it as the film's moving on, you lost the audience. So it's got to just go boom, 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 and it has to have I understand pacing and all that because, it's a crash course almost, because I've done short films, but a feature is like, whoa, and it's quite a lonely place to be because, you get to the point. So the way I was telling everyone is when you put a cut together, everything you like is done. I like it, boom, like it, boom, like it, boom. But what happens is after that, you're just stuck with the stuff you don't like. That's all you can think about is the stuff you don't like. So you're going to sleep thinking about it, waking up thinking about it. While you're asleep, you're thinking about it. So it's just you in this film every day, constantly. So I had a celebration. Once we finished the edit, I did celebrate. I'm not going to lie.
It's so tough. But yeah, you're right. It is a really tight film, and I think we watch obviously a lot of films, and you write a short film, you can play about with the structure and stuff, maybe a lot more. But with a feature, we obviously watch quite a lot of features, and we watch quite a lot of new features. And it's really difficult because we work with lots of young people making films as well, and we want people to break the rules and do exciting wonderful things, but also sometimes there is structure and there's rules, and actually if you can get that pace right, the structure kind of right, there are things that just feel right. I think you've really achieved it.
They say break the rules and you don't have to stick to the structure, but in a way you kind of do. It's there for a reason. If you don't, then you kind of like, for example, the inciting incident. In the script I had something in my head which I thought was the inciting incident, which is like on page 2 or something. But then when I watched the cut, that wasn't obviously the inciting incident. It came later on. So we had to trim that down, and you kind of, you have a big start and then a dip and all that kind of stuff. And you kind of, if you don't, and you sort of just too slow all the way, you'll kind of lose the audience, you'll bore them or whatever. So you kind of, it's there for a reason. You don't have to. It's not like, the be all or end all, but it's there for a reason, And then if you don't do it, then you realise,
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that you've made some short films and stuff for, as I say, this is your first feature, but tell us a little bit about, how did you get into filmmaking in the first place? I love an origin story.
All right. Well, I mean, it's quite a long story, to be fair. I mean,
we got some time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, like in my late 20s, I was doing a lot of nothing really. I was going nowhere fast, and then in my late 20s, I decided to sort of do some soul searching. Read a few books. Read The Secret, which was given to me by my cousin Amy Maguire, she came and she saw I wasn't doing too well, and she said, "You got to read this book," And then I went out, and then I remember came back, and I normally I'd flick on a movie and I see the book there, and it's like I wasn't reading many books at the time. I promised I'd read it, so I picked it up, read it, and it was just like, wow, it sort of just went, and then I read the whole book in like a night and all that kind of stuff, and then that kind of led me on to doing some soul searching, and I was sort of thinking, what are my hobbies? What do I do? What do I want to do with my life? And the thing is, when I thought about it, I had none, nothing. What is my passion? What am I into? And then after thinking about it, the only 2 things I had was music and movies. And then I always had scenes and ideas of stories, and I tried to write before. But I went and put on a couple of gigs of music. I realized pretty quickly I'm not going to make any money. I was spending money, if anything. And then I ended up doing a couple of courses for film, which were pretty terrible, but I loved them. They weren't very good, but I loved it. It was the first thing I ever did properly, was that course. It was a government thing. And then I did another course, and then the guy he said, write a CV and put everything you do on there. And I was like, I do nothing to do with film. I've done nothing to do with film ever. And he goes, well, what do you do? I said, well, I got a van. He goes, well, stick that on there. So I put that on there, and then in those days it was Mandy.com.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That kind of got my career started, to be fair. And then I saw an advert for, I think I put it on my CV, and someone from the NFTS called me. Anna from NFTS. She's a great girl. She's a good friend of mine. She was doing a production managing course. And then I just sort of went with my van just to sort of see, I had a hallelujah moment. I thought, I can get a job on film set and work on film. And even if I don't earn much money, at least I can learn I can scrape a living doing something I enjoy. I can learn how to make films. I'm in the industry, and that's kind of the way forward. And then I just went with it, and I just sort of started working with them all the time and all their productions for about a year at the NFTS. So I always say I went to the NFTS without going to the NFTS, which is the film, the National Film.
Yeah, great. I mean, great. Get a free education.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, I met other students. So I kind of almost did my own little film school for a year or two, and then just started meeting people, because I had a van, and I was just getting asked, because what they do, I realized pretty quickly, if they don't call me, they have to go and hire a van. But if they give me that money, then I'll come with the van and I can help them out. So I started earning little bits and pieces, and getting a crash course in filmmaking. And then I met like Central Film School, London Film Academy. They all started calling me, and we all became friends and had a lot of fun. And then I bought a bigger van, and then I was on Mandy.com again. I met someone, Bill Hayes, the location manager, a good friend of mine, known him for years. He got me on a job.
Actually, I should admit here, so I used to work for Bill Hayes when I started. When I was straight out of kind of university, I was location kind of assisting, unit managing and stuff. So I worked with Bill a number of times. So I know Bill. I was glad to see his name in the credits, actually.
Oh yeah. Oh, you saw it on the he's a local.
Yeah.
Big up Bill Hayes, man. So yeah, he got me on a job, and then I met him, and then on that job I met someone who ran a lighting company. So I started doing bits and pieces for those guys, and that was Lightning Media, Mike Patel and Lee Patel, who's still my friends. I know. Yeah. You know those guys? Yeah, I saw Lee today. Yeah. I saw Mike. Mike told me off because I owed him a bit of money, but I paid him off, so we're friends again.
Nice.
So, and then one day he sort of ringed me up after doing a few jobs with him. He said, "Oh, what are you doing for the next 6 weeks?" And I was like, "Oh, sort of laughing, nothing." He goes, "Do you want to go on a feature with me? It's up north in Sheffield. I'll teach you a bit of sparking," because I was only sort of driving and doing. I was blagging my way through at that point. I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. And he said Sheffield. I was like, hold up, Sheffield. My cousin is doing a film in Sheffield. Amy McGarrett, she's an actress. She's in Bollywood and been in Hollyoaks and all that kind of stuff. Great career. And now she's in LA and stuff. And he goes, I said, is it about breakdancing? He says, yeah, something like that. And I went down to my cousin's in it. So I went down and I was like, so we loaded up the van, went down, and I remember they were shooting, and I thought, I better hide, so she didn't see me, because otherwise I don't want to ruin the shot, And then she's driving in the car. I remember the car shot, her and the hero, the director, whose film it was. He was an actor and a director. He's driving, and then she sort of sees me, goes, huh? Goes, oh my God, stop the car. What are you doing here? Right in the middle of the shot. And everyone's like, who's this guy? What's happening here? And then we ended up on that. It was an adventure for 6 weeks, and it got extended for another 2 weeks. So it was 8 weeks altogether. And I got the guy who got me the job, Mike from Lightning Media. His wife had a bit of a problem, so he had an emergency. He had to go home. So on my first ever feature, I got left with like a truck full of lighting, like a crew from India.
It's the best way, like there's so many times where that happens.
I thought I was hating it, but I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But I met such good people. By the time it finished, I absolutely loved it. I thought that I just got the bug, and I couldn't wait to do another one. And I felt after that I'm not blagging it anymore, and I picked up lighting, and I had a skill, so I became a spark. And then a couple of years later, I became a spark. But the thing was, I was quite old and a bit older to start with, already 28, 29 by that time. So when I had a big van, so I'd pick up the kit. Whenever I get there, there's no lighting person, or I'm the lighting person. So I started becoming gaffer straight away on the smaller stuff. I was like, fine, made a few mistakes, but that's how you learn. And then just carried. And then a few years, 2-3 years later, I met R.I.P. one of my best friends, Luke Biggins, who passed away a few years ago. I met him, and then he's like one of the biggest music video directors, producers in the country, probably the best as far as I'm concerned. He was by far the best, and then his studio just closed down, and I met him, and we just started working together. We just clicked, and just started working together all the time. And then an opportunity came up, a Filmscape who we used to work with, so big up Kevin Harvey and Terry Smith. They basically opened a place in Southeast London and Southeast like UK, and it didn't work for whatever reason. They wanted to sell off the kit, so they asked me if I could sell it to anyone. And it just so happened at that time I was thinking about buying some equipment anyway. And I said, you know anyone that'd be interested? And I said, actually, I'll take it. And Luke goes, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And he goes, yeah, I'll get you started and we can work together. Blah, 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 blah. So I bought the kit, and then me and Luke were just sort of in each other's pocket for a year or two. Big respect and love for him, because I'll put it at the end of the film, I wouldn't have got to that level if it wasn't for him. And then as soon as I bought the kit, I was just with him all the time, for 3 to 5 music videos a week for a year. I helped him, he helped me. And then I sort of carried on, and then he carried on. We're still friends, and we were working together all the time, but not quite as intensely. And then I carried on, and then made a bit of money and learned how to make films and made loads of contacts. And then fast forward a few years later, I had in the back of my head, I always wanted to make a film. That was always going to be my aim. That was the reason for getting in the film industry. Even when I was busting my ass 3-4 o'clock in the morning in the middle of a field carrying an FO through the mud, in my head I'm like, one day I'll make a film. So I got there in the end.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's a few things, isn't it? Like
I told you a long story.
No, it's good, but like
that's the short version.
Yeah, well, because I like that gold dust that is a van. Like I've started working with all sorts of people because I had a van, and then but also that whole you turn up on something, someone drops out, you get an opportunity. You're in the right. You just kind of. The film industry is something that you can't learn from a book, and you've got to do it. Like you were saying, you've got sometimes you've got to have that moment at 3 a.m. When you're having to cut stuff out and whatever else. That you kind of have to have that to get on and make those contacts.
My van. And people say, how'd you get in? My van was my way in. To be fair, that's the way I got in. Really, it got my first van got me all the way to Glastonbury for free. I had a friend, art director, Natalie O'Connor, big up, a good friend of mine. I met her on a job. She was art director, and then one day she rings me and she says, "Oh, what are you doing? Do you want to go Glastonbury?" He's like, "Yeah, the Rolling Stones were there." And then I thought, the one time I get a chance, and she said, "Oh, you have to come work free for 2 weeks." And I was like, "Well, I can't do that. I'm busy. I've got music videos and stuff going on." She's like, "I'll tell you what, come here with the empty, pick up your load of van up, come to Glastonbury 2 weeks before, drop that off. come with an empty van, stay for the festival, load it up, and come back. I was like, I can definitely do that, you know.
I
So yeah,
100%
being in the
get
film
that.
industry and having a van got me to Glastonbury, and I had the best time ever, you know. So
Nice.
thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, well, and like, so, you know, you're saying, you know, all you wanted to do was make that feature. Now you've made that feature, and I know you're obviously, as you're putting into film festivals, you're in kind of at the beginning of that journey in many ways, but like, has it, because it's hard, you've talked about how hard it is, how long the process is,
Yeah.
has it given you more fire in the belly for the next film, or are the things that you've learned from doing this one that you're like, right, I'm going to get that sorted before I do the next one?
Do you know what? It's you know, it depends on the day. To be fair, sometimes I'm like, I'm never doing
Yeah.
this again. Like, but yeah, no, the fire is definitely in my belly. That's all I can think about is doing another one. You know, and I know I made a good film. I mean, sorry, I'm bigging myself. I know the film, you know, it's
No,
decent.
it
It's
is.
best I could do.
It's a really good
Yeah.
film. Like, you know, we watch a lot, and yeah, it like for it to be your feature debut. I'm uber surprised because it's so hard, you know, to
Thank
hit
you.
all
Yeah.
those beats and get, you know,
Yeah.
it's really hard.
It is
So
really hard.
yeah, no, well done.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm like, to be honest, luckily I'm blessed in it because you know, the crew that I had, you know, like Ayub, the DOP, Ayub Lamrani, like he's my boy. Like he's one of the first person I met in the industry. We started sparking together, and then we started gaffering, and then he started DOPing, and then he's Moroccan. He's from London, but he's Moroccan of descent. And then he started getting work out there, and he went out there and became one of the top DOPs in Morocco. You know, really well known, really, you know, really established. And then so like it's like working with family, you know, someone like that. Ben Pingilly, the producer, I've known him for years. You know, Darren, you know, known him for a few years now. So yeah, it's like, and all my sparks, we all work together all the time, you know. So it was real kind of like, you know, that's why I feel, you know, had the right people involved to help me kind of get through it. You know, I know it's my idea, but they all got behind it and backed it. Even the post-production guys, Stone Dogs, Brian, and all those guys, Mark Meadows, and all those, Brian Carbon, Mark Meadows, all those guys, Picture Shop, you had Sonny Lotan, Flo Bird, you know, they all kind of backed me, and they were proper companies, established people that, you know, it wouldn't have been like the way it is if it wasn't for them, you know. And even stuff like, you know, again, it gets to the point like we were talking earlier, like when you're writing a script or when you're doing an edit or when you're doing the grading, even when you're doing sound, the possibilities are limitless. So you have to, you know, you have to kind of say, right, this is it. This is, you know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? So we kind of do it together. So everyone's opinion is valid, you know. So obviously it's my decision, but everyone's opinion is valid. I try to listen to the experts of what they do, you know. I don't know everything, so I had to kind of listen to grading, sound, you know. They do this day in, day out. They're all professionals. They're all artists. They're like amazing, all artistic people, the musicians, everything. So I kind of, you know, let them sort of express. Sounds a bit cliche, but let everyone express themselves, you know.
Well, yeah, like, you know, like you kind of said, you start, you know, I always talk about the film family. Like by the end of it, you've lived through a lot of things, the highs, the lows. It depends what day it is, you know, all that stuff. And so, yeah. You've got to, you know, let people bring their A game. You've got to, you know, all of that. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's a mistake. If you think you know more than everyone else, you know, you don't. Nobody can know about everything, you know. It's your decision, but then at the end of the day, that you're working with these people for a reason, you know. And they backed me, like, you know, Stone Dogs, they're really established. What they do is amazing. The stuff that they do is amazing. Same with Picture Shop and Flo and Sonny and all those guys. They really know what they're doing, you know. So sometimes you've got to just listen to them.
Absolutely. And like, you know, the people that hopefully will come to see this film at Northampton Filmhouse, but I, you know, assume it will go elsewhere as well. But like, what do you hope that kind of audiences just get from it?
Well, I'm trying to spread a message, a positive message. You know, I don't want to say too much because I want to kind of leave it as a bit of a surprise. But I'm trying to spread a positive message. You know, dealing with issues that in the Asian community that are normally just brushed under the rug. Either people don't know, or they don't care, or they don't want to know. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, that's not us. You know, so you know, some of the people are like, yeah, thanks a lot, Jazz. You just, but yeah, I feel like I'm trying to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, just that's an interesting question. Actually, I'm gonna poke a bit harder. Like you said about like people going, "Oh, thanks," but like, what has there been? So local people that have seen it, I assume, you know, people have. Like, what have their responses been?
I mean, to be honest, I've had really positive feedback. You know, the last screening that we did at London Independent Film Festival got such a good reaction. You know, I remember sort of sitting when it started. I was sitting next to my missus, and it started, and the first scene. there's a little joke. It's not. I don't find it funny. I've seen it 1,000 times. So like they said something, and everyone started laughing. And I was like, whoa, like that. Everyone laughed. Like wow, everyone just laughed, you know. And then they're like, oh, you know, you can feel the reaction. And it was almost like on every beat, wherever I wanted it, it was there. Like the laughs, the cries, and all that kind of stuff, you know. So, you know, there was a few kind of red eyes, puffy eye people at the end. So that was good. I was like, yes. Did you cry? I was looking at everyone's eyes, you know.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, you know, like we're a place-based film festival. Like we're in Northampton, like and obviously not with all the films we show, some of them are local, some of them are from across the UK, but you know, we're always trying to you know, give people a little bit of Northampton its spirit.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I don't know, what would you like people to kind of think about Hounslow?
What do I want to think about Hounslow? It's a beautiful place. It's the nicest place ever. The best place to be from. It's just like it's just the world we're from. Like, you know, we're not all just comedians, and we're not all just we don't all just work in shops, and you know, it's, you know, we are just living lives here, and you know, and I was just trying to show an honest look at where I come from, where we come from. I know that's not affecting everybody, every single person, but I just wanted to just show like this is it. You know, we haven't been represented like that, in my opinion, on screen. And I didn't want to go all out gangster. Oh, look how hard we all are. You know, look, we're all gangsters and we all got guns, and you know, I don't want to do that. I want to do something a bit more realistic than that. And that was the whole idea, was just show reality of here. Yeah. So you know, I mean, to answer your question a little bit, like one of my sparks who's on there, you know, I've been working for years, and then he, after our shoot, he was going to do a job in Southall, in West London Studios, which is in Southall. And he was on the bus and he saw a bunch of young Asian kids, and he was looking at them. I was thinking, wonder if they go to the pub. I wonder if they're like that, and this, that, and the other. And he goes, and he only thought like that because he'd seen my film. And I was thinking, wow, like, you know, yeah, you know, like, he goes, I never think, no, that's kind of the idea, you know.
Yeah, like absolutely, like
you know.
Yeah, that giving people an insight into, you know, it's your view, your experience of Hounslow. But yeah, it make any. That's what I love about film festival. You get to come, you get to see loads of different people's lived experience. It means that you don't, you know, stereotype or just make assumptions about people's lives. And like, what's better? You know, make the world a better place.
I know it's set in Hounslow in like West London, the Asian, but it's not just. It's like that. That's like all over the UK. You know, it's British Asian rather. It just so happens it's set in Hounslow because that's where I'm from. You know, but it could be Birmingham, it could be Leicester. You know, it could be anywhere. You know, it's just trying to show that, you know, we're not all like trying to, you know, our parents aren't disappointed because we're not joining the family business or something like that. You know, it's not always like that. It's not always the Asian guy and the white girl or the other way around. It's, you know, the Asian guy with the Asian girl, which is that's just how it is where I grew up, you know. So I just kind of wanted to show that, you know.
Yeah,
so hopefully people see the humanity in it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like you say, you know, it's got some humor, it's certainly got some drama, it's got a bit of everything. So yeah, well, thank you very much for joining me tonight, Jazz. It's been really great, because obviously we see the films, but we don't get to meet the filmmakers until we do things like this. So yeah, it's been really nice. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Yeah, it flew by. Time flew by. I'm still ready to talk.
I know. We'll save it after people have seen the film.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, that's great. Thanks very much. Cheers.
So yes, if you'd like to catch the film, then you should head on over to the website, northamptonfilmfestival.co.uk, click on the festival, which takes you to the schedule. It's on Thursday the 5th of March 2026, if you're watching this as a recorded thing, 8:15 at Northampton Filmhouse. We're also showing another film, Far From the Plains, which is a Grey Moth production who we love, and they're a big firm favourite. It's starring Koji Radical. It's a short film that's really worth a view as well. So you get two films for the price of one. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully see you all at the festival soon.